but not really.
Yeah.
Well, hello Facebook and hello YouTube. Hello the world.
Yes. Hello world. Hello London.
Hello. We're in West Virginia right now, right?
No, I'm in regular Virginia.
Oh, you're in regular Virginia. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
All right.
No coal miners' daughters.
No. I got to take a little bit of a ride to go do that. How are you doing, bud? Sorry, I'm just trying to share this.
Nah, that's okay. That's okay. No problem at all. No problem at all.
I'm gonna share the YouTube link. Everybody go subscribe to my YouTube. Preferably watch on YouTube.
Yeah, go and subscribe to his YouTube. You need to do that.
Yeah. And then we have 2 episodes up on iTunes, so you can listen to these while you're at work now, or while you're in church, or
if there is such a thing at the moment.
Yeah, none of that exists right now.
Global lockdown.
Yes.
The quarantine continues.
That's why we're doing Zoom podcasts.
That's right. Yeah.
The Zoom aspect gives me the advantage of talking long range to people such as yourself.
Well, I was going to say, we are doing it transatlantic as well. So
the transatlantic podcast trade.
I was going to say,
Okay. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, Max, is because
yes, sir.
Your podcast is the first one that I was ever on.
Well, I'm happy to help break your cherry, sir.
It felt good. I liked it.
Oh, baby.
So are you not doing your show anymore?
Well, okay. So what happened there was, as before we went live, and funnily enough, as I was explaining the other day when we spoke, was that people think, doing a podcast is just like, a couple of people, shoot the shit, but no, what it is, there's a lot of post-production work, as I'm sure that your production guy EK will attest to. It's not just the aspect of having a conversation. That's the easy bit. If you can talk, then you've got that down. But then you've got the part whereby you've got to do the edit, then you've got to do, the description, you've got to do the uploading. There's so much that goes into, doing a podcast, whether it's successful, like whether you're broadcasting to millions or whether you're broadcasting, to, your next door neighbor. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. So for me, it got to the point where also as well, I have a 9-to-5 job. And that's what pulls in, that's the bread and butter. So it's like something had to give. And because I was doing transatlantic shows, it meant staying up late. It meant, it was going to break. There was some was going to break. Either I was going to get fired or the podcast had to go. And if I got fired, then that's a slippery slope. That you don't want to go down. But now what I'm doing, I do radio. So, I've got a radio show on Saturday mornings in the UK that broadcasts live on the internet. And that is so much easier because I just spin tracks and I talk shit and it's a good old laugh. Do you know what I mean? So but I do kind of miss podcasting a little bit.
It's a combination of kind of talking and then you get to play music too?
Yeah, so I'll play like, my specialty is kind of soul funk, disco, R&B, old school, Motown as well.
Okay.
And and then what I'll do is I'll do like preambles and stuff like that. It's like, hey, we're out here, we're broadcasting to 150 countries, blah, 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 and kind of G up, you kind of have to be your own hype man a little bit as well when you've got your own radio show because, no one else is going to do it. You got to do it. So.
Right. It's you versus the crowd, basically.
Yeah. You're a part of the brand. So it's like, you got to hype the brand. Do you know what I mean? You know, they brought you on board to kind of because you know the things that you do and you have a passion for the music that you play and you know the things that you're playing, but at the same time you're also part of that brand as well. And the brand that I'm a part of is uniquevibes.com. So when I do my show, the Maxi J Experience, that is just like, you know, the Maxi J Experience in itself is its own brand. It's like a sub brand, and then I'm out there pushing, you know, the station to everybody who's listening. So
right, that's kind of what I'm doing with EK. You know, he helps out a lot. You know, obviously I pay for studio time, and you know, he's not doing everything for free, but you know, he'll help me in my brand, and I help him in his brand, and I try to push the FXBG Public Radio brand too, and try to bring other people in to collaborate with us or work studio time, or just get people to like his Facebook page.
Yeah, it's little things, right? It's little things that, you know, that galvanize and add momentum.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And then a lot of people don't realize that you need to work together with brands like that to propel yourself. It's important to trade resources. It's necessary to trade resources with people.
I think that's a part of the human experience. Do you know what I mean? You know, you take it all the way back to ancient Egypt. You know, it's like it's a barter system. Do you know what I mean? You want knowledge. What have you got in return? Oh, you got a goat? Great, I'm hungry.
Right. That's interesting that you bring up Egypt.
I know.
You bring up Egypt and knowledge, and I've been
where
really
it all started, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess. Maybe it started in Atlantis before. Do you think there were civilizations before Egypt?
Well, I mean, you know, you kind of, there's evidence to show that that there was significant. Who's the guy? He's not a meteorologist, but he's been on Rogan a couple of times, and he talks about how there is evidence of a waterline around the area of the Sphinx towards the head area, suggesting that there was significant, you know, waterfall at a period of time BC. So therefore, there has to have been something going on. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Yeah.
So to turn around and say that all we know is what we know is, you know, I'd say that's kind of ignorant as much as it is arrogant as well, to say, oh, well, this is everything that we know, when really they're turning up new stuff, you know, every day. It's like, you know, there's, you know, Quebecli Tepe, and, you know, there's all sorts of, you know, new and amazing, you know, archaeological discoveries that are happening. So, you know, just to sit here and say that, oh yeah, well, you know, because it's been discovered and because it's been seen and because that it's been written about, well, this is it. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. I think you're right too, and I especially like what you said about it's arrogant. It's ignorant, arrogant, and I think naive too. I think you're right. There's so much knowledge out there, just in general, that you can only imagine that there's probably been more writings and knowledge lost than there is knowledge available.
Well, yeah, I mean,
could be wrong. We live in the internet era where we have a pretty instantaneous view of whatever it is that we want.
I get that. I mean, there's you know, what happened in Egypt with ISIS and you know, them destroying, you know, the museums and all of that kind of stuff, and all the ancient artifacts and so on and so forth, in order to kind of undo a lot of discovery and a lot of knowledge and all the rest of it, in order to kind of bring forth, you know, that this is the caliphate, that we are the be all and end all, as controversial as that's going to sound. it kind of reminded me of the end scene of have you seen the movie The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery and Christian Slater, a very young Christian Slater at that.
No, I have not.
Right, okay, great film. It's all set in the Dark Ages, and Sean Connery plays like a monk who's like the kind of religious version of Columbo, and they discover all of this knowledge that's been locked away in this hidden kind of part of an old, abbey, and all of the knowledge and all of the writings, all of the ancient texts and all the rest of it are locked away in this thing. And Sean Connery's character, William of Baskerville, discovers it, and right at the very end, it burns. It just burns to the ground because of a fire that starts in another part of the abbey. And he's trying so hard to rescue the knowledge and rescue the text, because in his mind, it's knowledge that needs to be shared with the world. Why are we keeping this stuff behind? Why are we locking this stuff up? And that's right. Exactly what we're talking about right now, is that knowledge, it, good or bad, it needs to be out there. It just needs to be able to be verified in such a way that because there's a lot of fuckery out there at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, can we believe this? And that's the next question, isn't it? It's like, is it, has it been messed with? Is it legit? And how many people does it take to make it legit?
Yeah, right. How many sources do you need before you believe it?
Absolutely.
Before it becomes fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is it just because of the fact that the tales have been handed down from person to person to person? Or is it because it was verified and we had scholars that were able to turn and say, yeah, this is it?
No, yeah. That's such a... It's interesting, and it's complicated to do. It's not easy to do, especially with the age that we live in now. Like I was saying, the internet, because it's with as much real information that you can put out there, it's just as easy to put false information out there.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what Anonymous was doing back. This is when in their early days, when fake news, when they infiltrated and hacked. I think they hacked like the Washington Post. I think they hacked the BBC News, and they just inserted like ridiculous, like stuff that is easily called that, like, Tupac alive and well and living on, some island somewhere. Do you know what I mean? On a legit news source, fake news. That was the fake news. Now it's like, oh, geez, yeah, if you inject bleach into your system, oh, this is going to work. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. What started off as a prank, what started off as a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink, has now become something that can change political discourse.
Yeah. I hate how much the coronavirus is just like, it seems to be dividing people even more. People are finding political standpoints in it, and
it's weird what's going on for your country at the moment. It's so weird what's going on in America. I mean, I'm a conscientious observer. Do you know what I mean? And I'm just like thinking, because you've got state law and you've got federal law. Now, fortunately, you're talking to a British person that kind of has some understanding of, state versus federal, and how states are taking their own precautions or not. But there doesn't seem to be, or at least it's not being communicated on our neck of the, over in the UK, as to what is happening on a federal level, with the exception of the fact that you guys are getting like $1,200 checks a month. That's about as much as we know. It seems like there's a lot of confusion, and where you have confusion, that creates divisiveness. And that is what can separate people. You can have the people who are like, you know what, I'm pro quarantine, I'm staying indoors, don't want to take a chance. And then you got the people like, no, fuck that, I'm going out, I'm still living my life. You know, the government can't tell me what to do. You know, and that's another thing as well, because the USA is relatively young and hasn't been through mad shit, you know, like the UK has. You know, we're in so many history texts across the globe, you know, the War of the Roses and so on and so forth, and the Dark Ages, and you know,
Right.
you guys have yet to experience any of that stuff, so you guys are still trying to find your way. And then you add technology into the mix. Woo, that's it. Have at it.
Yeah. And I think you really hit the nail on the head with confusion. I think confusion does play a lot into it. And that comes back to, again, misinformation. A lot of misinformation. Just so many different news sources out there. Who do you trust? And then the way everyone's politicizing it, and then it's just that is all adding to the divisiveness. How's your country? How's the UK handling it? How's it affecting?
Okay. So our Prime Minister has just recovered from coronavirus. He was in intensive care for about a good week, solid week, and they thought it was reported, quote unquote, by his dad. He almost took one for the team, you know, because they thought he wasn't going to make it because his respiratory abilities were so impaired, according to media reports, that that we might have, you know, lost our country's political leader. In relation to what's going on as a country, I would say that we're probably a good 2/3 of the country support the quarantine. And then you've just got, you know, people who think that they know better and so on and so forth. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think no one really knows. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like, why take a chance? Why take a chance? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if it's okay if you're free and you're single and you got no, you know, I can do whatever. You know what I mean? You know, go live your best life. But when you got a family, when you got children and so on and so forth, I'll give you a prime example. I went out just before the lockdown, you know, kind of really got involved, you know?
Yeah.
And went out to meet a friend who I hadn't seen for such a long time. My friend lives in Sweden, and he come over to see his family. And I thought it was just a harmless thing to do. Go out, you know, have a few drinks, all the rest of it. It wasn't until that I went to see and actually meet with my friend that, you know, his dad was like, no, I'm not going to let you in. And I'm like, what? And this was before the whole national message around social distancing happened. And then anyway, the day went on and I got back, and the following day, the missus was really, really pissed off. She was really, really fucking upset. And she was just like, you know, you could potentially have brought this into our house. Thank God I didn't. But in hindsight, it was a bloody silly thing to do, especially when you see the numbers of people that are dying left, right, and center. Now, this is another thing as well. It's about how the reporting is done, because everybody's talking about the people that are dying. No one's talking about the people that are surviving it. And I think that that's equally important. You know what I mean? You know, because the last I heard, news is the news, which means that there needs to be some kind of a balance. But because the happiness and the joy of, you know, talking about the survivors pales in comparison to the fear and, you know, pushing a narrative like, you know, stay at home.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah, it sells better. It really does.
If it bleeds, it leads. You know, that's the mantra of modern day journalism.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, so I mean, to kind of go back to what you were saying, how we're handling it in the UK is that about 2/3 of the UK are supporting the quarantine and are abiding by it. Social distancing, only going out when it's necessary. Essential workers doing, which I fall under that category as an essential worker. So
next, if you were,
no, yeah, yeah. By the nature of the work that I do, working in children's social care, that I am classified as an essential worker. So I get, I it's a little bit more relaxed for me. So if I get stopped by the police, I just show them my badge and, sorry to have bothered you, blah, blah, blah. Whereas if you're just a regular Joe and you get pulled over, it's like, you get the 3rd degree and you get an on the spot fine. So.
Yeah. That I haven't dealt with. So I was very careless in the beginning, and then here the past 2 weeks I've been super careful, and I've actually been self-quarantining. Someone that I'm in close contact with, a family member of theirs has COVID. So it kind of freaked me out just because it's still, a third party, but it was that close to home.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been cracking down on myself, my own self quarantine. But I live right off a main highway. It's literally Route 1 in America is what it's called. It runs from New York to Florida.
Right. Wow.
And traffic slowed down, but not that much. And not a lot of these people are essential. It seems like a lot of people are being careless. That I wasn't the only one, and don't continue.
Yeah. I think that there's some kind of emotional respite in the idea that, thank God I'm not alone. Do you know what I mean? Right. you can like, okay, all right, I'm not being a complete and utter prat. There's more of me out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but one of the things that I noticed in the UK was when the lockdown hit, it was like 28 days later, it was eerily quiet on the road. It was weird. It was bloody weird. It was like warfare, but no enemy. You couldn't see nothing.
Nighttime is when it's more eerie around here.
Yeah.
Like if you drive by 95, which is the major interstate on the East Coast, there's nobody out there but truckers. And they look like they're social distancing their trucks. They're so far apart.
Wow, that is insane. Because usually they're back to back.
Yeah. Usually they're on top of each other, and there's all sorts of cars and commuters mixed in.
Yeah.
I live in a commuter-heavy area. It's kind of like a suburb of D.C. So there's a lot of government workers, a lot of people that go to Quantico Marine Base to work.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people aren't anymore. So
they've probably been instructed. It's like, listen, if you don't have to come out, don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with you guys. Whether there's a lot of furloughing of employees, or because it's weird because I live in a country whereby that we have like social. We have, so what you describe as socialist healthcare, which we call, our National Health Service. But what we also have as well is a system that can that is designed to prop you up in the event that bad times happen. And what's going on is a lot of employers are having to furlough their staff. And as a result, the staff are allowed to apply for assistance in order to make sure that that they're not going to fall behind on anything and that they can still survive. I don't know whether and I know you guys get the £1,200 or the $1,200 sustainment check. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what employers are doing in the US with regards to whether there is any assistance for for workers who have had to stay home.
I think different businesses are doing different things depending on their status.
Right.
A lot of people are filing for unemployment.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, Scott.
we've had that.
Go ahead, EK.
I know I don't often chime in on your show, but I actually have something relevant to say.
Oh, cool. Go for it, man.
My company authorized a temporary 15% raise for anybody continuing to work because I work for an essential supplier for my day job. So we got a temporary 15% raise and 80 hours of temporary paid time off if we get sick or need to take care of somebody who's sick. Also, all the executives in my company took a 20% pay cut in
order to support it.
Right.
Wow.
Gotcha.
So that's just something that my company is doing now. I can't go into a lot of detail about my employer, but I can tell you my employer is a Canadian-based employer.
So the socialized, the socialist aspect of it, you can kind of see.
You can see the tricklings down through the availability, what's available to me. I also have amazing employer-provided health care. They have a North American headquarters and operate out of America. But yeah, that's what my company is doing for me.
That's good to hear that at least you've got some level of protection in these uncertain times.
Absolutely, very thankful for it.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Canada.
Yeah, and that sounds like a positive strategy for trickle down economics because EK literally said that he could, it's trickling down, and it's because the CEOs, the owners, the billionaires, whatever they are, took a pay cut for themselves so that the worker ants could have a pay increase. So there's a little bit of money there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the way you kind of would expect, things to kind of go down. But not everybody's as fortunate as EK as as I'm finding out. So it's good that that EK can kind of be in that position whereby I'm working for a company that does have some kind of some moral value with regards to its employees rather. Other places not so much. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, especially if we have these things here called 0-hour contracts, which essentially means that you're an employee, but you only get paid when you work, and if you don't work, you don't get paid. As opposed to, say, my contract, for example, which is guaranteed 35 hours a week. That's what I'm signed up to do, and that is what I will provide for my employer, and in return for that, I will be paid. So it's it's a weird ass situation, man. It's weird. It's just weird, and on so many levels, not just politically or on fiscally, but it's just people. One side of the fence is like people are stuck. People are kind of in a cerebral space. It's just like, what the hell is going on? And then on another side of it, people have become a bit more pragmatic, and it's like, well, you know what? Sure, work might have slowed down or work might have ended, but I'm finding out more about myself. Do you know what I mean? There's been these kind of, epic voyages of self-discovery. Like, people are finding out, oh, geez, yeah, I used to play guitar once upon a time, and before I was an employee and before I was working so hard that I forgot that I even had a life. Right. Do you know what I mean? And people are finding these little niches that they once had, whether it be art, music, poetry, whatever. Do you know what I mean? People are finding out that there was these things that make them tick.
There has been a lot of creativity coming out of this because people are so stuck.
Tons of it, and it's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh fuck! What was I gonna say? No, I really think that's important to. I think that's important to life in general is to create and kind of get back to those childhood roots and paint and play fucking make believe and play charades with your family and play board games and stuff like that, as opposed to being so sucked into TV or your phone, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, also, I mean, the dissipation of a 9-to-5 grind will allow you to have that space. Do you know what I mean? Some people, they get lost without a 9-to-5 grind. There's been a spate of, people, kind of ending their lives because they haven't been able to kind of sustain and understand what it is like to be at one with themselves.
Right.
That's a tricky thing for some people to navigate. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're alone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I've been kind of dealing with, because I've lived with family for the first however many years of my life, and then I lived at a friend's house. It was like what we call in America a trap house. It was like a drug dealer house. There were several of us living there. We were all selling different drugs. I went from
we call it a squat.
Squat, yeah. Or we also call those a flop house. So that's kind of the same, squat and flop house. I went from there to the motel, and from the motel, I came, and there I lived with a roommate for nearly 4 years.
Wow.
I mean, everything that I've done has been living with other people, and where I'm at now, I've been isolating myself from the one other person that lives here, and I've been dealing with a lot of that here too. Is like, okay, can you be alone with yourself, Scott? So there is and I know a lot of people are dealing with that. It's a big time for reflection, and because of that, a lot of people are waking up, and because they're not working all day and all night, they're watching TV all day, all night for weeks. And then after weeks of doing that, your brain starts turning to mush. And that's when you start to realize, that's when people start picking back up these old creative passions, these old hobbies, or people start picking up new creative passions, new hobbies, new interests, more hands-on with life, as opposed to just scrolling a phone all day. And I think that's one really beautiful thing that's coming out of this.
I've noticed that my dreams have become very lucid, very, very, and very vivid as well. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird ass situation, man. You know what I mean? Because, I never used to really dream. I know they say you do dream. It's just about the ability to recall. But I'm there's finer detail. Do you know what I mean? There's like finer detail that I can recall in a dream that I never once was really kind of able to. Do you know what I mean? Like the seams in a cushion or something, like just like complete and utter twaddle. That you would just whatever, but I can recall it.
Right.
Smells and things like that. It's crazy shit.
Before this happened, I was having a lot of like lucid dreams and psychedelic, spiritual, almost dreams. Here recently, my dreams have been weird. My memory of them is kind of fleeting. You know what I mean? Like, I'll remember for a minute when I wake up, and then it'll kind of escape me. Or I won't remember, and then I'll remember later in the day when something kind of triggers that memory. I smoke a lot of weed, though, Max, so I know that affects my ability. I smoke a lot of weed and cigarettes, so I'm stealing all that oxygen from upstairs. I'm sure that has a great effect on my ability to dream or not.
Well, I definitely think that a bit of the old Mary Joanna will definitely help. Open up those neural pathways. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've been eating mushrooms I've been eating mushrooms here and there too, and on those nights I tend to have the stranger dreams for sure.
How does your kind of reality compare in these kind of COVID times when you're entering into a psychedelic experience?
I mean, it's weird because I don't usually trip alone. I can definitely feel the difference when I trip alone than when I trip with my friends or a group of people.
Uh-huh.
It's just a different vibe, and I think that comes back to needing to be at peace with myself and needing to be more aware of my own existence and not be so codependent on external sources for stimulation.
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, you hit the nail on the head. You know, it's about, you know, can you be at one with the me? You know,
Yeah.
can you get in touch with, you know, what's in here? You take away everything. I mean, like for me, for example, if I took away, you know, my wife and my children, and you know, what would that? And I know for a fact that because I've been so used to them being around, that the idea of them immediately not being there would cause a very large amount of anxiety. But then, because of the person that I know that I am, you know, because I'm an only child as well, I've had to spend vast amounts of time dealing with my own shit. Do you know what I mean? You know, just being at one with the me, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, not everybody's got the capacity to be able to do that. And that's where, you know, you see people falling into crisis. And at this moment in time, it's very hard to access services, you know, when you are falling into crisis. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I know, I mean, all of us are blessed with a lot of modern day conveniences and stuff, whatnot.
Oh, Christ, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I worry. I think, like, what happens if the lights go out? You know, we're fucked.
And, I mean, we don't have, you know, guards at our doors, but there's still a certain, like, incarcerated feeling to it, a certain cage feeling.
Well, that's why they call it lockdown. You know, you know, call it whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it quarantine, whether you want to call it lockdown. There is this kind of incarceration feel to it. Do you know what I mean? You know, and I guess that's probably the reason why you have a lot of people in America who are, you know, pushing back, because it's like, my government can't tell me what I can and can't do. I had the, you know, the Bill of Rights was not built on, you know, was not built on tyranny, you know?
Right. 100%. So, all right, let's, I'm sure if anybody's even listening anymore, they're tired of hearing about coronavirus.
Let's move on.
Let's
send your comments.
Let's figure out a way to spin it. So we have something to look forward to, and we kind of talk about what's coming to us in the future, what we can look forward to. What do you miss most about normality? What are you looking forward to the most when things come back to what they should be? Now, I'm not going to say they used to be, but because I don't think things are ever going to be really the way they were.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to the dissolution of normal. I've seen so much good stuff come out of this. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's people have become friendlier, at least over here, a lot more tolerant, and a lot of the things that were once important are no longer. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, I think Rogan probably put it best. You know, it's like, this is a soft push. Do you know what I mean? And it's shown us as a species just how vulnerable we really are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So I'm actually looking forward to what happens the day after tomorrow, if you know what I mean. So if tomorrow is when it all finishes and the World Health Organization says, yeah, okay, it's great, you can. Everything's beautiful. I'm looking forward to the day after tomorrow.
Right.
You know, and what that looks like. Because I've got a feeling that there's gonna be some very, very, very different aspects to life. I mean, prime example is what's going on in South Africa right now. You know, the warring and feuding gangs that were once, you know, quarreling and arguing over territory and drugs and money and this and that and the other, they're now out there delivering supplies and delivering food and delivering medicine and so on and so forth. So they put down their guns and they picked up, you know, delivery parcels. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's like that kind of stuff kind of gives me a little modicum of hope.
We need more of that here too.
Yeah, yeah,
More community.
big time, big time, big time.
So
yeah,
I've seen some of the ways that it's positively affected the community. Here's a quick anecdote. So I went to visit my dad a couple weeks ago, and they have chickens over there.
Mm-hmm.
They get eggs. They get fresh eggs from the chickens, which I love going over there and picking up fresh eggs for myself personally.
Yep.
But they let the chickens kind of loose during the day, and they've had problems with the neighbors about the chickens. The neighbors have actually called animal control on the chickens before. So, and that was, you know, that was months ago. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago when all this COVID stuff was getting really crazy. The neighbor that had called the animal control on the chickens previously came by, not begging and pleading, but for lack of a better term, begging and pleading, and asking for to buy eggs. If she could buy some eggs from them for her child's birthday party, so she could make a cake.
Through patience and tolerance comes understanding.
Right. But I think that's just a small anecdote of how community kind of should work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then, the real, what I would want is, okay, I have chickens, you have a garden. Can I have some squash and some jalapeno peppers for some eggs?
Boom. And it immediately goes back to what we were saying when we started this conversation, you know, taking it back to ancient Egypt. And you have knowledge, I have a goat.
Right.
You're hungry, I need to learn some shit. Job done. We're a tribal species. We are designed to not... Our species is designed to be around other similar species. You know, you and I are supposed to be in a flipping... You know, in a circle of huts. Do you know what I mean? There's supposed to be some wise old man or woman. Do you know what I mean? You know, that's supposed to be kind of the sage. Do you know what I mean? You know, the oracle, if you will.
Right.
You know, this is turning very Duncan Trussell-esque. So I do.
That's almost the vibe that I'm going for on my podcast. So you're fine.
Do you know what I mean? But that's what we're supposed to be doing. Do you know what I mean? It's supposed to be this idea of people coming together, people who have different skill sets. Oh, you can raise chickens. I can build stuff. Oh, you can show people how to do that. So, you know, you have teachers, you have carpenters, you have people who can provide, you know, like the Walking Dead, if you will. Do you know what I mean? You know, you know, you have people who have specific skill sets, you know, and that's community. That is community. That is tribe. That is tribalism.
And you know what? It's funny you bring up The Walking Dead, because as that show progresses, they do a good job of showing how humans would adapt to that circumstance of living in that world. And I think that this coronavirus might. There might be some similarity there. You know what I mean? This might teach us a different way to readapt to the world that we had gotten away from, or that we hadn't thought of yet even.
I said it. I think I put a post up on my Facebook. You can go and have a look on there. That's about three or 4 weeks ago. And I said the Book of Eli is not a movie; it's an instruction manual.
Yeah.
And you know, when you think of these kind of apocalyptic movies, and you're like thinking, hang on a minute, there's stuff I can take. This is going on right now.
Right.
You know?
I feel that same way about 1984. I read 1984 a few years ago, and I read 1984 about the same time the Xbox One came out. Remember the Xbox One came out and they were like,
Yep.
yeah, it has to be hooked up to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's got to be constantly on. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
shout out to Bill Gates.
Yeah.
We won't. I don't know if I want to get into that right now.
I was going to say.
Yes, but there's a lot of overlaps with just that concept and where we're at in our society, or the NSA and.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bill Gates can barely get viruses out of Windows. I'm not exactly confident on this whole vaccination process.
Oh my God, Max, that was funny as shit. Did you come up with that yourself?
I read it somewhere, but it kind of stuck with me. So.
Yeah, I like that. So maybe we should try McAfee to get rid of this.
Yeah. Or get John McAfee. Find out which Indonesian island he's living on at the moment.
Watch a doctor named McAfee is going to be the one that go Eureka and cure the coronavirus.
Well, I reckon there's already a doctor that's already done it, and this is if you go on Black Twitter, do you know what I mean? Dr. Sebi. That now then, there's a guy. There's a guy. If you just hashtag Dr. Sebi, and there's like all sorts of mad shit.
Man, he's trying to get me killed like Nipsey Hussle. All right, so you said all right. Let's float. Before we switch topics, the thing I miss most about the world is comedy. I miss doing comedy. I miss hosting comedy shows. I miss hanging with the other comedians, and I miss walking around downtown. I miss the culture. I miss everything about it.
I mean, the day after tomorrow, you're gonna have a lot of fucking material. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I just gotta jump in my notebook and stop being lazy. I've been I've been hypnotized by my phone and my laptop too much recently. So I've been
blue light. It's the blue light.
It's like a moth to flame. So I've been recently making my daily list again of like things that I need to do, and I kind of picked my momentum back up. I did a couple things today. I went over to the house that I'm about to move in and measured the room so that I could hang. I exercised. I played with the dog. I finished this article that I've been working on for a while. So I got some production in today. Now I'm doing the podcast. After this, I'm going to work on a couple more things that kind of keep that momentum going. You know what I mean? I lost the momentum. I dropped the ball. Now I'm picking it back up, and now I got to keep. I got to keep my discipline. So
yeah. A black belt is the white belt that don't quit, right?
And that's another thing about all this lockdown and stuff. Is we need to be careful of the habits that we get into.
Big time. And it's good that you are remaining productive, because it's very easy to kind of enter into sloth mode. Do you know what I mean? Just be like, oh yeah. Put food in here, please.
Yeah. So I'm just getting back in my groove of things. I've really been out for a little while now. I've gotten distracted, complacent, and yeah.
I know you were saying about about comedy and all the rest of it. That you miss it and so on and so forth, and that Netflix can be a massive distraction.
Yeah, Netflix, Facebook.
But I mean, we were just talking about Duncan Trussell, and the Midnight Gospel is probably him, Pendleton Ward, Joey Diaz knocked it out of the fucking park. It's so good.
I was so glad when Joey Diaz's voice was on multiple episodes and multiple.
I know. I was just like, yes.
Yeah, that show was everything. I really liked episode 3. I think we talked about that a little bit the other day. With Damien
Eccles. Yeah.
I followed him on Instagram and saw that you follow him too.
Yep.
So I actually called you to kind of talk about him, and
That's right. Yeah.
if I was kind of asking what kind of interest you had in
Ceremonial
mysticism,
magic, right? Yeah.
ceremonial magic, and things of that nature. I try to be
Mhm.
careful with the way that I word it because there's a certain tab to it from some.
Well, I'm not being funny, Scott, but I mean, if you're talking to me, that means that you kind of understand that your listenership is kind of able to kind of go to different places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, you should. I don't think, personally speaking, but having experience of hosting a podcast, that anything should really be taboo, unless, of course, the person that you're talking to, like, has
Right.
just lost somebody in a car crash, and you're talking about car safety. Do you know what I mean? You use a modicum of, self discipline and yeah, let's be a bit diplomatic and all that kind of stuff. But really and truly, it's a conversation, and it's a dissemination of what that person feels, knows, might not necessarily be true or necessarily accurate, but at the same time shouldn't necessarily be censored either. You know what I mean? You should just be able to talk about it, whether it's taboo, whether it goes against the grain, or whether you know what I mean. It's an opinion. It's just an opinion piece. Holds no weight. It is what it is.
Just as far as like putting it out into the universe that and I do put out some of my mystical interest into the universe. But as far as like Facebook and in my comedy and things like that, or even on the podcast, but
it's not like you're a level 73 wizard or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? You're just a dude who reads a book and it's like, oh shit, yeah, I like that.
I think, but what I was trying to say is a lot of people that don't understand, that don't have an understanding of what some of these topics and interests and concepts are, usually label it as satanic, Luciferian.
Yeah. That's super easy to do because
you get lumped into some weird, you're a fucking devil worshipping child fucker, whatever.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Damien Eccles. You read his story, and that's exactly what happened to him. He was in a town in Arkansas. Nobody knew or understood him. He was, quote unquote, by his words, white trash. No one understood him. Everybody thought he was a weirdo. He's into paganism. Therefore, he must be a satanic, devil worshipping, piece of shit. And then the kids come up, first of all missing, then found their bodies found in local woodland, and him and his buddies are immediately fingered for it. No forensic evidence that connected any of them to it. Do you know what I mean? It was a trial by public opinion. That was it.
Right, because they were misunderstood.
Because they were misunderstood, pissed off teenagers who were, rebelling against, the kind of the current status quo of the time. There was an expectation that they should be hanging out at the mall and listening to whatever was popular at the time, but no, they were listening to rock music and Metallica, and as a result, the iconography that you go and buy a Slayer album, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're into worshiping Lucifer. You know what I mean? It just means the fact that you like some heavy music and you're rebelling. I think clown Sean Crahan, the clown from Slipknot, said it best. He said, "Metal is the music of the forgotten." That's it. Mic drop. Walk away. Job done.
Yeah.
And even Marilyn Manson went one further on the Bowling for Columbine documentary. He said, "If you're not going to raise your kids, I'll do it for you. Just do not be surprised at what you get."
Right. No, and I can definitely I see 100% what you're saying. part of me wants to keep some of my practices or beliefs sacred from the public eye, just because I'm so wide open about everything. I mean, my Facebook picture literally is a nude right now of me. I'm so wide open about everything.
Think me like your French ladies.
Yeah, I'm so open about every other aspect of my life that I should keep one thing a little sacred for me. And as far as like things go, that's one thing that I feel a lot of people should. There's a certain sacredness to it, or even like meditation. Like when you talk about meditation, there's a certain virtue signaling that goes into that, where people are like, I meditated, I've been meditating, da 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 da.
Oh
and
God,
it's like,
yeah. I'm spiritual. I'm spiritual, man. It's like
right. You don't have to tell people that. You're not. You're virtue signaling, or you're trying to be like some sort of like savior or rescuer. If something works for you, you raise your vibration, do better in life. People will ask you what you've been doing, and then you can go, I've been meditating, or I've been practicing these strange, metaphysical concepts. One thing, but I related to that guy a lot, and I related to him a lot because a lot of the things that he said or had to say are, as far as like ceremonial magic and high magic goes, were things that I already thought, felt, and have said before to other people. So it was really comforting hearing him say it, and for someone to be speaking about that on, like, trying to speak about it on such a large platform. But when you listen to him and he talks about it, and this isn't just him, this is a lot of people, this is me too. And I believe that Duncan Trussell and Joe Rogan have been, that they know what ceremonial magic is. They were playing coy, and if you watch the podcast where they talk about that, they were playing coy and shit. Like, that's what I believe. But it's a universe. He's talking about a universal source of energy, an infinite consciousness. He's talking about God, but he's not calling it God. He's not calling it by the Judeo-Christian, verbiage of what they refer to as that higher power. And then a lot of the things that he talks about is once he's kind of learned the things that he's learned, right, about magic, the esoteric, the mystical, and then gone back and read the Bible with that eye, you know what I mean, through that lens, he's noted that the Bible is it's a magical grimoire. It's prayers. It's speaking things into existence and trying to manifest them. And Jesus even talks about it in certain verses.
Well, I mean, to kind of to put a bit of a personal spin on it, paganism and all the rest of it. My uncle was diagnosed with stage 3 esophageal cancer, and when you kind of dealt that kind of a kick to the nuts, you immediately start going on these kind of like quests for for healing, for cure, and all the rest of it. And he went on not necessarily a theological journey, but it's like, right, okay, so let's see what's going on. Are we talking about the power of prayer? And he went down the road of paganism and spoke to practicing witches and wizards and so on and so forth. And they did their incantations, and they said the words that they needed to say in order to kind of provide my uncle with the things that he was looking for. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute that it was because of paganism, ritualistic magic, but my uncle, it led my uncle down a road of feeling confident to take an experimental medication that had not been released to the general public, that was still in the trial phase, and he went for the trial, and he took the trial, and it cured. Well, I say cured. They don't like to say the word cure. They say, you know, his cancer is in remission, and he's still with us. So, you know, thank God, or whatever you want to call it. But you know, the point being is the fact that, you know, it took, you know, when you're staring down the barrel of a gun, what difference does it make where you go to look for your answers? You know?
Right. Yeah. Totally. I totally respect that. It's just it's sad to me that it is misunderstood, and that it can be taboo because of it being misunderstood.
So because of reporting, it's what it all comes down to. It's all about the way it's reported. And I'm not necessarily talking about mainstream media. I'm talking about how, you know, John and Jane Q Law, you know, talk about it to their friends and neighbors and everybody else, you know, just like, you know,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you know, that crazy witchcraft thing, oh, it's got to be bad, you know, when really it's about coming to one with nature. Yeah, sure, you got dark arts in dark practices, but then there's dark arts and dark practices in Christianity as well.
Yeah,
you know,
they're just veiled. I mean,
there you go.
What about the Roman Catholic Church? I mean,
oh yeah. That's a whole other conversation, my friend.
I'm involved with the Roman Catholic Church. Just right offhand, the blood of Christ and the the body, the whatever.
It's an incantation. It's bloody. You know, it's transmogrifying. You know, like, you know, physical things into, you know, like it's the blood and it's the body. It's like, come on, man, this is bread and this is wine. You know,
well,
but through magic and the power of belief and the power of cerebral interception.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, and a lot of the things that go into it too. I mean, hold on, before I get into this, there's, with all of that being said about the good and the positivity and it being misunderstood and taboo, that's not for nothing. You know, it definitely can be misused, abused, used for selfish reasons, for
absolutely,
people trying to attain power, or for lust, for greed, vanity, whatever. But so can Christianity. I mean, I think Joel Osteen is one of the most evil motherfuckers to walk this earth. He's a greedy bastard, and that's not Christ-like. You're a Christian, so that's a lot of the problem that I have with a lot of organized religion, and that's, I mean,
it's really ironic when you think about it, because, you know, if you look at if you go back, funnily enough, going back to what we were talking about, Name of the Rose, Ron Perlman's in it, and he plays a hunchback, and his character was a Dolce Knight, and they were a group of people who believed in the poverty of Christ, but they were an extremist group, and it was like they would go and plunder and pillage in order to make sure that everybody else recognized the poverty of Christ, and if they didn't agree, they would kill him.
Right.
But going back to your thing about Joel Osteen, you know, having all of this wealth and assets and houses and yachts and, you know, all the gold he can eat, it kind of flies in the face of what he's trying to perpetuate.
Yeah, 100%. And that, you know, he's not the only one. He's just the best example. Or, I mean,
oh God, yeah. I mean, you know, you've got oh God, who's that fella? You know, in the 80s, and he had the earpiece in his ear, and he's like, you know, and what he was doing was getting people to, you know, write down all their things, and they were getting collected up, and there was someone in the back. The great, oh God Almighty, that magician who debunks people. He's in that documentary, An Honest Liar. Really, really good. And he just called him out. He's like, there's somebody with a radio, and he's got a transmitter in his ear, and this is how he's getting the word of God. Yeah.
Right.
Charlatan, mate. Total charlatan.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. It's an abuse. You know, you can use or abuse anything. They used to use cocaine for dentistry. They used to be able to order heroin in Sears magazine. You can.
Well, Sigmund Freud was a neuroscientist who was studying the effect of cocaine, and then he was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, I'm having these really, really weird ass dreams," and that's what led him down the road of psychoanalysis.
Right. No, I mean, everything has a use and an abuse. 100%.
It's a tool. It's a question of which hand you're using it.
Right. Same with Facebook. I talk a lot of shit about Facebook, and I have a problem with scrolling it and being addicted to it. The bells and whistles. Mm-hmm. But it can be a good tool for everything that I'm trying to do. It's just a matter of, it's a good
marketing tool. It's a very good marketing tool. Yeah.
You can't let it use you.
I think, and I fell into that trap. You know what I mean? I there was a time, wake up in the morning, first thing I do, reach over, looking at my notifications. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now, it's like, I can very much easily put it down. I can take it or I can leave it. I use Instagram for the radio show, as a marketing tool, and then I have my own personal page, and all the stuff that I'm that I'm into, that I just follow, and that's my visual stimulus. That's it. But other than that, I refuse to be suckered in again.
And I'm trying to get out of that warp myself. And when I do, it's over for you hoes. No.
That's right.
But getting back to this kind of ceremonial magic, mysticism, or whatever, the reason that I've kind of got to this destination where I'm at with my thinking is just from a lifetime of studies, whether it's my own experiences, things that I've read, but also the fact that what I study and what I practice is a more one-on-one, and not one-on-one with the universe, as opposed to, and there's something to be said and a lot to gain from group prayer, group worship, but organized religion is very corrupt in all its forms, not just Christianity. But I think that's a big reason why I've fallen down the path that I've fallen, is because of the one-on-one aspect. But also, when you start to study these concepts, overlapped with psychedelic experiences and overlapped with studying Eastern philosophy, you start to see all these connections. And also when you study science.
Yeah. I mean, to touch on what you said at the beginning about Christianity, being quite corrupt. Well, it goes back to the adage of all it takes is a rotten apple to spoil the barrel, right? And that has happened so many times. It's not to say that Christianity is inherently bad. For some people, it's inherently good. Do you know what I mean? It provides them with, because I think that it's important to be balanced. Yes, there's lots of negative reporting, but then there's also you hear good things as well. We can get so consumed with the Joel Osteens of the world and the Roman Catholic Church and all of that shit. But again, it's that rotten apple that spoils the barrel. But then on the other side of it, what you're talking about, the idea of, mysticism, and science and, psychonautics, if you want to use that word, that takes a degree of bravery in order to kind of, let's say you're somebody who's born into a Christian background. It's all you've ever known. You go to church on Sunday, you go, Easter, Christmas, midnight mass, whatever. Yeah. And then you kind of have this awakening, you have this thing, and it's like, hang on a minute. I'm a Christian, my friend Abdul, he's a Muslim, my friend Chan is a Buddhist, my, a girl I'm at university with, Seiko, is, she's Japanese, Shinto religion,
Right.
and it's, and then it's like, okay, so you start thinking about those things, and then you're like, hang on a minute, then there's this other side of things whereby, where with a psychoactive delivery system, there's a whole other world and a whole other movement. I don't like to use the word religion because to start using psychoactive delivery systems and then pinning them to a religion, that's a bit careless. But
I think it's just more of a theology or a whatever.
It's definitely an ology.
Yeah. It's your spirituality. It's whatever you want to call it.
That's it. It's whatever you want to call it. It's and that's the thing. It's personal. It's bespoke.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. What was I gonna say?
Oh, we get heavy here, bro.
Yeah. We get weird over here, dude. I love it. I love doing weird podcasts. I did one a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine that I used to work at Target with. He's a paranormal investigator and a Freemason. And he was really fun to talk. I mean, we talked about metaphysics and geomancy and ley lines and supernatural aliens, all kinds of stuff like that, man. It was
I love that shit. I love that shit. Yeah. I want to do a PhD in parapsychology, but the only place I was doing it was in Edinburgh, and I'm not. I'm a little bit. I'm too London to go to Scotland, so. Plus, also, I've got a wife and 3 kids as well. I'm not about to relocate.
Yeah, you were telling me about that the other day too.
That's right. Yeah. I figured I'd touch on it again.
That would be really interesting. So I still, without going to school for it though, that doesn't mean you don't study. That's very true. It's very true.
It just means that I've got a set of letters after my name and a funny bit of paper.
Yeah. You just don't have a formal. I don't know who it was. I
call myself a doctor.
I don't know who it was. I want to say it was Mark Twain that said, I never let my schooling get in the way of my education.
That sounds a lot like Mark Twain. I'm pretty sure that was Twain. Yeah.
And
never let my schooling get in the way of my education. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I fucked off for a lot of years. I'm back at a point now where, I mean, I'm a creator. I'm a performer. So there has to be a certain... I have to take in a certain amount of knowledge and learn and experience things. I can't a party animal, you know what I mean, to get by.
Yeah, I mean, doing stand-up comedy, you are in a very, very rare and privileged position to be an orator of current events, but putting it in such a way that's palatable and hopefully funny to the audience, right?
Yes. Thank you for hoping in me.
Oh, you're welcome. You have my heart. You had me at hello.
Oh, Max. You're so sweet. But getting back to the weirdness.
Yeah, don't tease me.
Before we switch subjects or end this, I think another thing too is because fuck it, I'd rather be hated for what I am than loved for something I'm not. I believe it was Kurt Cobain. And I think that's where my head should be at when it comes to talking about things like this. So the last thing I want to say is, I think it's important for people to realize that, like like I said, it can be used for nefarious reasons. It can be a very beautiful thing, and I don't think that it goes against mainstream religion. Because first of all, every mainstream Abrahamic religion or even Eastern religion has their own form of mysticism, metaphysics, um, and kind of, metaphysical concepts and ideas, that tie into their religion. I think that studying these things just kind of levels up your own religious and spiritual experience, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, Buddhist, Shinto. That to study these things, study psychology, that it doesn't go against what you've been taught or indoctrinated in. If anything, it excels it. You know what I mean? It kind of adds fire to the flame when you go back and look at these things now with that eye and through that lens. You start to see these weird connections, and you start chasing that rabbit.
Yeah, for real. No, it's absolutely right. And it's and again, it doesn't matter how you get your education. It's about how you then apply it. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's true too.
Because you and I mean, sitting here, we could be providing somebody that we've never met before, that we don't know, with a brand new insight, and that could just send them into the murky waters of whatever it is that we've just been gassing about. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
No. So, and they're like, "Oh shit! Look what I've just found."
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that too, because that's such an important piece of life. I mean, that's just so important to life, like a lot of things that we've been talking about today.
Sharing ideas, man. Sharing ideas, and this has been beautiful. I can't wait for the next one. Just give me a shout. I'll come back.
So, what other people from the Church of What's Happening Now have you had on your podcast when you were doing it?
Oh, Jesus. So I had Sid Kareen, the guitarist from Ministry. He came
That's
on.
badass.
Yeah, he was so cool. And we talked about music, and we talked about, stuff, and, Eddie Bravo, everybody knows. And if you don't know, you should know. And if you really don't know, then I just can't do business with you anymore.
You had Eddie Bravo on your podcast?
Twice.
What?
Yeah.
I did not. Send me those links after this. I did not know. What?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, twice.
I've been on a podcast that Eddie Bravo was on. Okay.
Yeah. Who else have I had? Had Rhonda Smith. Oh no, she's not part of it. You want to know who from the church? Yourself, obviously. I tried to get Uncle Joey, but that's just like, that's shooting for the moon. Do you know what I mean? He's busy.
Yeah. You got Eddie though. That's still really impressive. Yeah. He's pretty.
Yeah. How the hell did I get his? I think I just, threw shit to the wind and it stuck. Do you know what I mean?
Send me that podcast invitation template that you sent Eddie Bravo, so I can switch out names. And shit.
Do you want to know the secret? You want to know the secret of getting guests?
What's that?
Be polite. It's that simple. Be polite.
For sure.
So I mean, that's it. Don't think that you're the next Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Jay Leno, and Conan O'Brien, whatever. Just be fucking polite. Just like, hey, you know what? I've got this podcast. I think it'd be super cool if. Oh shit! Had Mike Dowd on my podcast as well. Who's a member of the church. So and he's in the documentary Precinct 75.
Okay.
He was also on Rogan as well. So.
Damn. And no, I don't think I'm. I don't think I'm a messiah or the answer by any means.
Oh no. I don't think for 1 minute that I was putting you in saying that you were. arrogant or anything like that. I'm just saying, if people said, "How do you get X? How do you get Y? How do you get Z?" I'd just be polite. Just
Yeah,
being polite.
Well, and I think that's 100% important. Well, you were talking about like don't think you're Ed Sullivan or Johnny Carson or whatever. And I don't want to be like that. I can definitely get passionate about a certain topic and start rattling off weird thoughts about it. But for the most part, I try to let the guest have the platform. You know what I mean? It's for me to pick your brain and learn from the guest.
Well, going back to what we were saying about how we learn from each other. Something that Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were saying in an interview was that there's Keith Richards refers to it as the mystical art of weaving. That when you're on stage with other musicians, that you weave and you come in and you come out, and you kind of let the energy of what it is you're doing take you on these places. You can kind of equate it to surfing. You accept the energy of the wave and you ride it. Yeah. And that's exactly the same thing with conversation. It's not, and I'm not saying that what we're doing right now is super easy to do. Yeah, you can talk to people, but to be able to take a thread and then go off with it, do you know what I mean? And see where that road takes you. You've been really good in terms of the fact that you wanted to steer it in certain directions. Myself, the way that I would lead my podcast was just to just to drop a tiny little pebble down a snow mountain and then just see what kind of comes from it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to talk about as far as like your podcast and the High Magic, but that was just like, it was just literally podcast, High Magic. Like everything else that's pretty much how my podcasts go. I mean, I come in with a base, or like you said, a raindrop of what I want to talk about, but then I just let that go where it goes.
And that's it. It's just like, just let it, just let it be, because it's an energy all of itself. If you try and steer it and it just becomes sound bitey, and it's what am I doing? Am I here to promote something, or am I here to have a conversation with somebody? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can feel that too. And I mean, that's something I'm going to work on being natural. I mean, we were talking about that before the show about just kind of turning the camera on when I don't know. But I've still been trying to figure out, I don't know. I've been trying to be the most natural that I can and not turn on something else that's not me when I go to host, the show. But I know I'm not the only one who struggles with that, or has struggled with that and had to work through stuff like that.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, the amount of times that you watch Rogan and you think, hang on a minute, is he pulling teeth here with this person? Do you know what I mean? Just trying to, get something. I think Elon Musk was probably a good example of where it felt like, as brilliant as Elon Musk is, he's not a fantastic conversationalist, not at all.
Yeah, well, and you can like literally see him calculate his answers. You know what I mean? He's so
it's the delay between finished question and response. It was on average about 5 or 6 seconds, whereas you finish it and I jump in if I don't interrupt you, which I can only apologize for.
No, you're totally fine, bud. Yeah, I know what you mean. I just looked over your shoulder for like the first time. I've been really focused on you, and I saw that fucking backdrop. I forgot about it, and I was like, "Who's behind you? Who's in the room?"
That's Miles. That's Miles, man.
That's cool. That's cool. I like to listen to Coltrane when I write.
Coltrane's deep. I love Coltrane.
Put on
Coltrane's cool.
Blue Train
Yeah,
Cold.
Miles, good. Dizzy Gillespie. You know what I mean? You know, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea. Oh,
No, that's good. You got good taste, man. You got a vast knowledge of music.
Yeah.
All right, so
It's a
before we finish this,
yes, sir.
name your 3 favorite musicians or bands, artists, whatever, and then
Okay.
tell people how they can find your radio show.
Okay. All right. Lovely. I love the fact that you're giving me a platform to promote. I appreciate that.
Of course.
Okay. So definitely number one is Prince. He was everything to me in terms of like, you know, inspiring me to want to learn how to play and be good at it. You know what I mean? Not just play, but to be good, you know, and to understand the music business as well. Second, I would say would be Bill Bruford, who was the drummer with King Crimson. And third, I think in terms of, man, it's tough. It's tough nailing it down to 3 because there's so many, you know, and this could change tomorrow. If you ask me the same question tomorrow, apart from Prince, it could change.
Right.
I would probably go with, I think I'd have to go with Miles. Put Miles in there as well. Yeah.
You're that big of a fan of jazz? You listen to it that often?
Love it.
Okay. Is there jazz clubs? I mean, you live in London. That's one of the biggest cities in the world. Is there jazz clubs there?
Yeah, tons. You got the Jazz Cafe in Camden. You got the 606 Club near Earl's Court. There's the Bull in Barnes Bridge, which is they're everywhere. You know, and even like little restaurants upstairs might have just like a little jazz trio just doing just some dinner jazz from 8 o'clock until midnight. Just cooling out. So
yeah, I wish we had like a little jazz club, a little lounge, a little jazz lounge.
Yeah, just get some cats with some dodgy facial hair and some good vibes. It's like, yo, this one I like to call Blue Jam.
Blue Jam. All right, where's your show at?
Okay, so you can find my show, all of my shows that I record. I put them on Mixcloud. So if you go to mixcloud.com/DJ MaxyJ, MaxxyJay, and that will take you to all of my shows that I've done. I've been doing it now for a year, so since last April. So there's about 50-something shows up there. And if you want to follow my actual presence on Facebook, it's the Maxy J Experience, again, MaxxyJay Experience, and DJ Maxy J on Instagram as well. But my live, if you want to hear me live as it goes down, uniquevibes.com every Saturday, 10 a.m. GMT until 12 midday.
Beautiful. And send me all those links, and I'll put them in the description for this this podcast.
Definitely.
So, answer me one more question.
Sir.
Will you consider bringing back the Justice System? That's what it was called?
Yeah, the Justice System podcast. Will I consider bringing it back? Never say never.
Once a month. Come on. One Friday a month. That's not pushing.
One Friday a month, man.
Then you can do Transatlantic.
What I might do, funny you say that, what I might do is when I set up for my radio show, I just might leave it set up. I'll set it up the night before, and then I'll just like, yo, you want to do a podcast real quick?
Yeah.
I will give it some due consideration.
Do it, man. Do it.
Put it out there. Put it out there as a vote on your page. Should I bring it back?
Okay. Okay.
Let the audience decide.
Let's ask the
I will.
church.
I will be. I will. Yeah, I'll be led by them. I'll tell you what. I'll be led by them. How about that?
We'll ask the church. How about that?
Ask the church. Should I come back?
I think you should. At least once a month. I mean, do you miss it?
Yeah, I do. I do miss it. I do miss having these kind of conversations. You know, going places and like coming away and just like. Whew. One of the things was that I used to come back so buzzed and just like supercharged. I'd have trouble sleeping. Do you know what I mean? Which is really tricky. You know,
A good conversation will stimulate you more than cocaine or alcohol.
wow,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, alcohol I've got great experience with. Cocaine, not so much because I've never done it, so I'll never know.
There's yeah. I have a lot of great experiences too, but they're not so great.
Yeah, well, we'll save them for off the record conversation.
Yeah. I wish I had the receipt for a couple of those nights, but I
Yeah,
don't.
no shit. Well, listen, while I'm here, I just want to say very happy birthday to my wife who just turned 40. Happy birthday, darling.
Happy birthday. What are you guys gonna do to celebrate?
Not too sure yet. Not too. It's tricky when you're in lockdown.
Right, yeah.
It's funny. When I celebrated when I turned 40, I was in court for work, so it was
You gotta find a way to get creative.
Good, yeah, definitely got to get creative.
All right, bud. Max, it was great talking to you, brother. You have a beautiful night. Get some
You
rest.
too, sir.
Don't
Yes,
keep you up too long, bud. I know it's
definitely.
be 12:30 there.
Yeah, well, hey, there you go.
You have a good Tuesday, bud. Enjoy the
You
night.
too, sir. You too. And yeah, I'm happy to come back anytime.
All right, yeah. No, I would totally love to have you back. I meant to say that. I would love to have you back.
Oh, we kind of spoke about that before, so it's all good.
Yeah, 100%. And if you bring your podcast back, I'd love to do it too. But
Yeah, man.
But don't sell yourself short. Wait until I get more famous. Keep doing people like Eddie Bravo. What the fuck?
Oh, geez, yeah. Eddie's got some very interesting ideas around what's going on right now. It would be cool to have him back, just to kind of like, hey, dude, what's going on? It's just like,
I'd love to have him on my podcast. Holy fuck.
well, you know, like I say, just be polite. Just be polite and see whether they're busy or not.
Yep. All right, Max. You have a good night, brother. Thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the trip, bud.
Take care, bro.
Bye. Did you